One thing that I've heard you say, and you've really been intentional about living this, is just being open to other things that you are called to do beyond what you may want to do. I know that you talked to, shout out Talib Kweli. I know you talked to him about that on one of your conversations with him. I see this as a very consistent example of that. I talk a lot about there being no retirement plan for MCs because of the age of hip hop, in terms of like, it really hasn't even had a full life cycle in terms of just its youth.
No, it's still very young.
It's still very young, right? So I think people are figuring out, both fans and sometimes artists are figuring out, what does hip hop look like at this stage in my life for me? How do I, in terms of how I engage the culture? And what I find interesting is it's not the artists that have as much trouble, because you look at like Cube with Big 3, you look at all the different ventures that you've gotten into, you look at Snoop and everything that he's into, and artists are finding different ways to continue to express themselves, to continue to use the platforms that they built to do other things after just straight making music, even if they may still be nice, even if they still may perform, even if they still have the hunger for their core artistry. I think it's actually fans that don't know what to do, like as they get older. I think fans don't know how to engage the culture the way that we were brought up to as we get older. What do you say to those fans?
Well, I mean, hip hop has always been your lifestyle conduit, right? And the problem is that as we get older and we start to look to transition and other things, we have to be careful to not leave the culture behind, right? The idea of Jay-Z doing an album in 2023 has nothing to do with Jay-Z making money off of an album. It's about showing cultural relevance, right? It's about bringing in these companies that we used to promote for money that we now own, right? Using our platform to further those business ventures, but then also show how to age gracefully.
That part. And that's the part, like, 'cause if you say, right, if you were to ask someone, is it a good idea for the culture to have a grandfather out here making new music in hip hop? Most people would be like, a granddad? A lot of people would be like, a granddad? I don't really know. Until it's you.
Well,
and then they see you do it and they're like, oh, nah, that's different.
Look, Willie Nelson's 90 years old. Willie Nelson just turned 90 years old yesterday as we're recording. No one questions whether or not Willie Nelson should be doing this, right? The reality is that Willie Nelson does still do music, but he does music as he's always done. As we get older, right? As actors, right? Embrace aging, right? We have to embrace maturity, right? That's the point. There's nothing wrong with a grandfather making rap music. There's nothing wrong with a grandfather putting on some Jordans and a hoodie and making rap music. A grandfather should not be making drill music, right? Like, if you still want to make music, you should not be trying to pick up new fans. You should be making a more consistent connection with the people that got you to where you were, right? And like when we were all young, we rapped about our vitality, right? We rapped about our potentiality, right? What our futures could possibly be. Some of them turned out like we wanted, some better, some worse, right? But there are general themes in life that will always exist. So as a grandfather making hip hop music, somewhere in that music should be shit that grandfathers deal with.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons why, personally, I'm a big Rick Ross fan, because thematically, aside from like the moving weight, there are a lot of real emotions and real themes that he talks about in his music that I connect to. Just as like from a grown man space, like, just different records that he's made. And it's that way with a lot of artists. And I'm glad you said what you said, because you look crazy being in the game for 10, 15 years, 20 years, 25 plus years, and rapping about a space that you ain't been in since like your second album.
You learn nuts.
You look nuts.
Right. So look, there are certain things that you can still reach back to, right? And you can talk about these things in the past tense.
Correct.
If you still want to deal in that content, right? Then now it has to be like, as I look back, right? You know what I'm saying? I look back at what I did and, I used to be out here doing this, and I can still move around based on my reputation, but I'm not necessarily putting my reputation on the line as I used to. And look, you just have to be very comfortable with yourself in your personal life in order for you to be comfortable talking about your personal life. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got a lot of people that are at grandpa's age, but has not
got to the grandpa mindset.
Well, they haven't paid enough attention to their mistakes. That's how you become wise. Like, I talk to a lot of young rappers and people think I just inherently know a lot of shit. And Bun B, you just so no, I fucked up a lot at a young age and I learned from it. And I'm trying to help y'all avoid fucking up in the way I did, because I left opportunity and money on the table. You're still very, very hot. You're still very, very relevant. You know what I'm saying? So here's the best way to position yourself to fully maximize and capitalize off the potential of your position in this industry.
I know when you were teaching, you really did take an intentional journey through Black music, starting with Negro spirituals. It's like taking the route of going all the way through there with your coursework.
So, for Black people, music has always been more than entertainment.
Of course.
It's been communication.
Of course, absolutely. It's such a fun, I mean, music is always going to be an indication of culture, right? But for us, it's really, really different. And it's also different because it draws people to the culture in a way that makes them want to be participants, not just observers.
Well, you have to think, there's always been interpersonal communication, right? So when slaves needed to communicate in front of masters, they used their original languages.
Absolutely.
Right? As we became free and moved into the world, typically we use religion as code, right? So, and then hip hop was always coded messaging. So,
absolutely.
So that's always been our method of communication in Black America, right? I mean, the cipher, breakdancers in a circle is no different than when the African tribes used to dance in a circle to, show who they were. I'm from this tribe. We are strong. We are powerful. We are many. We are, all of these different things. And now it's all self-expression. It's reclamation of the physical.
It's also, my mom talks about this a lot. She's a career educator in English. This is where I get my gift of words from. And her thing is always, in our community, the best talker wins. Oration is a thing in terms of just how we communicate, because we did not have the benefit of the written word in slavery. We had to learn how to excel in terms of the oral communication, and music is such a conduit to that, which is why you see all the way today, in terms of the core of what an MC is, I'm better than you. Or it's competitive in that way.
I can manipulate this language better. That's what it's really been about. So when you talk about the smartest people leading, it's because they are the most learned, they are the most read. And in the earliest days of Black America, books were banned, education were banned, right? So those of us that choose to be more informed, that choose to be more engaged, are drawing from that, from our ancestors, right? That is initially your place, is to learn as much as you can about this surrounding, which is not meant for you to thrive and exist bountifully in this world. You have to be smarter. You have to be smarter than anyone you come across, and smarter than anyone would ever give you credit for.
Given that evolution that you've watched, and given its importance to the culture and to us as a people, to Black people, the evolution of music and how so intertwined it is with who we are, our identity and our culture, are you at all concerned as to where we are now? And where do you think we're going?
I've always been concerned, and I always will be concerned. But we have to be careful not to concentrate on the worst of us. You know what I'm saying? We have to build up the best of us. The reality is that Black people are they're such good survivors, right? So a lot of times we look at the music industry and we'll be like, why is this person famous? This person is not talented at what they do. They may not be, but guess what? They came to work prepared. A lot of people with talent assume, right? If you're a really, really good singer, the assumption is that at some point somebody's going to recognize it and put you out there, right? So those type of people sit at home waiting for Ed McMahon, rest in peace, to come knock on the door and tell them they won America's Folks to Clear the House, right?
I never got one of them visits. I'm still waiting.
But for the others that don't have that talent, right, that don't expect anyone to come and knock on their door and make them famous, they have to come prepared. They have to come ready to open that bitch and close it. You know what I'm saying? And that's why those people get further in life, because they can't rest on it. They have no laurels to rest on. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So when these people succeed, people look at it and be like, well, why did they make it? Because I know so-and-so that works at so-and-so, he's better than that. Why? Right. Because instead of sitting there working with you, he never took the risk. Some of us, for some of us, success is actually an option. Succeeding in life is an option, because if I don't, there's enough for me to fall back on to still be okay.
And for some people, there's no plan.
So for some people, I can't go back. Like every now and then you meet a person in life and you're like, man, why are you doing this? I can't go back. If you knew where I came from, if you knew where I laid my head, if you knew where I expected love to come from, you wouldn't need. You know what I'm saying? And so I try not to be judgmental in my older years, because I really don't know what the struggle has been for some people.
That's real shit.
But at the same time, there are other people that simply could give a fuck, right? Like there are people who have to work very hard to make it to an NBA team.
Yep.
And then there are people that are born to grow into 6'7" height, 25 pounds of sheer athleticism.
And it was laid out to them since sophomore year of high school,
right?
If not early.
Right.
They knew, this is where I'm going.
So there are a lot of people in this culture that were undrafted. That's just the reality of it. And some of them found success and some of them didn't, just as those that were drafted.
There is man, this has been such an amazing conversation. Jesus Christ. There is a phenomenon now. It's always a conversation, right? Like, who's in your top 5? Just at a third. So now you see all these lists that come out. You know, everybody got a list.
Yes.
Somewhere they come from everywhere. And I feel like a lot of times lyrically, I honestly would listen to you, and I have my favorites. I really do like people who, as you said, and as you have frequently talked about, are able to really get into the English language and manipulate. So like for me, Fonte from Little Brother is one of my favorites. Black Thought is obviously one of my favorites. You're one of my favorites. When these lists come out and your name isn't among the top 5, 7, 3, whatever, where you may think it should be, at this point in your career, do you care? Does it bother you? Do you think about it? Does it motivate you? Does it register?
I've only really wanted the appreciation of my fans and the respect of my peers and contemporaries.
Fair.
If I'm not on, let's say, Journalist A, right? Journalist A says, I've been writing in music for 20 years. I've heard it all. I've seen it all. And this is who I think are the best that have ever done it. Why would I get upset with Journalist A? Because it doesn't say my name. I don't even know who the fuck Journalist A is. Could there possibly be room for the fact that just because he didn't rate you doesn't mean that you're not who you still are? Like, the reality is that if I need this person to say I'm one of the greats, I've never felt great.
That's a real thing.
I've been walking through this whole thing carrying insecurity as a chain around my neck, and you thought it was you. You know? And so for me, would it be good to be appreciated? Yes. Right. But I mean, if somebody's from Delaware or Seattle, right, or Illinois and just don't have the same cultural frame of reference for what I do, could I really get mad at them for not appreciating what I do? Is there room to say maybe these people really never had the right entry point for what you do? Right? Did you ever consider that maybe what you talk about might be a little bit off-putting? Everybody doesn't come to this culture for the same thing, right? And we can all appreciate who's in the culture, but everybody's got their favorites. Sure. I could sit here and name 5 favorites, and your comment section will blow up because I didn't say this person, and that person. And to be honest, if you ask me who my favorite rapper was in 95, would that still be the same favorite rapper in 2003 to 2009, 2015? There are amazing artists coming in every year. Imagine if you asked me who the top rappers of all time were before Kendrick Lamar became a rapper, right?
This is different.
And then after.
It's a whole different process that you go through in terms of looking at that.
And who's to say that I represent the majority? I represent me, right? You asking me who are my top 5 favorites, right? I'm going to tell you who my favorites are. Why would you get mad at who my favorites are?
Right.
If I ask you what are your top 5 meals and you say liver and onions, man, fuck liver and onions, man. That shit is gross. It's disgusting. You ain't got none of it. How dare you talk about liver and onions when fried chicken is right there in front of you?
You ain't got to eat it, bro. It's all right, my boy.
We're all beholding beauty, bro. We're all beholding beauty. And every single human being has a different definition of fine.
Right.
He's fine. She's fine. You know what I'm saying? We all got a different. So if you marry a woman that I don't think was bad at it, should I tell you that? Should I be like, I don't think you should marry her? Why? I think you could do better. In what way? I think you could bag a prettier broad than that. Really? You think the reason I'm marrying this woman is only because she's good looking? Like, is that it? You know, look, don't make decisions for my life based on what you would do if you were me. As entertainers and people of influence, we get a lot. I get a lot. And there are certain expectations that people just throw on me, certain assumptions that people just, cover me with. So they want to put jackets on me all the time, and I just simply won't be boxed in like that. You cannot tell me who I am, what I represent, and why I do. I will tell you, and then you can like it or love it, hate it. I really don't care because I'm determined to leave this world having been who I was.
I love it. We've had an amazing conversation. This has just been beyond my wildest dreams in terms of like what our discussion is. But before we get out of here, there's one question I gotta ask. So I play this game on the show. It's called Life or Death Hip Hop Karaoke.
Okay.
And so it's always the idea is somebody you have near and dear is in trouble, and they say you got 3 verses from 3 different songs, 3 different records, 3 different artists. You can't do one of yours, obviously. From any MC, any song, any record, what are your 3 verses? You have to get every word right to save this person. Every single word right. You cannot get wrong in the verse. From 3 different songs, 3 different artists. What do you got? You know you're not gonna mess up.
They're gone.
Really?
They're gone.
Damn, what?
They're gone. And if it's not me, they're gone.
Oh shit!
I'm just being painfully honest.
I've never heard this one.
There's no way I'm gonna get every single word right. I performed last night.
Yo,
all the shit. And dropped the ball 3 times. But it's always in a way that, you have to be like the most hardcore Bun B fan. You have to know my music the way that you're asking me to know someone else's music in this scenario to know that I fucked up. So no, they're out of here. They're out of here. And I'm so sorry. I apologize. I apologize. If my wife's cat life counted on it, she's out of here.
Why?
And vice versa. If I got the gun to my head and you're asking her, I'm gonna just be like, baby, I love you. I'm gonna miss you. So I'm out of here. I'm gonna be very honest. I honestly feel like I've taken in because I've read so many books, I've listened to so much music, I'm watching so many TV shows and films. I feel like I'm at this critical point where the more I learn now, I feel like I almost have to swap something out. Like in order for me to take something
Very classful
and hold it dear, I got to delete something.
I think I could get your verse from Murder, like the second joint. Like, I think I could get that. Like,
me too. Well, yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. I mean, I could probably, on a good day, I got to do the whole song.
one verse.
Maybe I ain't no joke. Maybe ain't no half stepping.
That's actually my go-to karaoke song, right? Like, but it gets tricky. And like, there's some bars in there that Kane just doubled up. Like, he gets tricky. But anyway,
and it may be, What's My Name? By Snoop.
Okay.
Right? So maybe What's My Name? I could get through a verse.
I do Gin and Juice before I do What's My Name.
I could get through Gin and Juice too. And something from 50. It's got to be something from 50 Cent that maybe it's your birthday. Whatever the birthday song for 50. But again, this is all, they're gone. I'm being very hopeful, right, about some of this shit, but I'm going to be honest. Be optimistic like out this bitch. It's not my bitch. And I'm so sorry. I deeply apologize. But that, again, if I'm in a club, right? Like if I'm in a party, like last night, let's say the DJs with Scram Joe, shout out to him, was to open the DJ at the event. And he was playing music. And he's going from Mobb Deep to Biggie to Wu-Tang. Now, in the midst of that, right, as I'm in that vibe, right, and this music starts to affect my subconscious and things come from the medulla to the frontal lobe, it'll put me back in that time, right? Like the vibe of the room could put me back, oh shit, I forgot about that song. And maybe in the midst of some shit like that,
right,
I could tap right into it and get it.
But just cold on
But if you put a gun to truck right now,
it's just all off the rip.
Tanisha, I'm sorry. He ain't coming home. He ain't coming home. And I'm so sorry for him. If I had a gun in my head, like maybe in a much more relaxed setting, I could probably.
You did, but
in a karaoke setting, I could probably make it work. But then karaoke comes with lyrics, don't.
Some of them do. Some of them, sometimes, like some people do like trap karaoke.
No, trap karaoke doesn't. Trap karaoke is playing anthems, right? Like every song in trap karaoke
is an anthem. Facts. It's an anthem. So, well, Truck, you be out of here. But we about to get out of here. My man Bun B has been in the building. This has been an amazing Black Brilliance branded conversation right here on the Charles Coleman Podcast. This is why you tune in. Can't say enough to thank both Bun B and Mayor Turner who threw the alley-oop. I really, really appreciate y'all. Peace.